It happens.
She goes insane, yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to Smudcast number 568, Trope Talk, Deus Ex Machinas.
Yo.
And in case you guys don't know what that is, we are watching an overly sarcastic Proudctions, another wonderful YouTube video on TV tropes that, well, you know, this is her thing. This is what she does. Red loves talking about tropes, giving her own spin, and we love watching that. So this came out just this month. Just today, in fact. Almost got 100,000 views. Good for her. Fantastic stuff. And Deus Ex Machinas are the simplest things in the world. They're almost universally bad. I can't think of a particularly good one. So anyone have any examples? I got my classic ready to go. If anyone can think of one, go right ahead.
I'm too drunk to think about that.
I would say the only one that halfway decently pulled it off was Robert Jordan in the Wheel of Time books, where there are several characters that basically have plot-breaking passive abilities that are basically, the pattern of reality just warps around you in order to make you win gambling games or put the right person in front of you. Because the pattern itself, creation itself, wants to survive against the destruction of the super evil.
Right. Interesting.
So that's probably the only place where this kind of works, because it's built into the story from the very beginning, and you have several characters with several abilities on this level.
Okay.
Like one being able to give. Having visions appear around other characters that only she can see, and she can interpret some of them instantly. And if she knows the interpretation, it is always correct to come true. So when such a thing pops up, it's like, oh, okay, you will like telling a pregnant woman, your babies will be born healthy, and that means that the woman may think, hey, that means I can do anything because the babes will be born either way. So
right,
let's get into trouble.
I was thinking of, believe it or not, when plots are so convoluted that you have characters that pop up out of nowhere that you can't quite remember or what happened to them, kind of like when you pay attention to Kingdom Hearts at any point in the story of any game, and you don't know where this guy came from, what he's doing, what his powers are anymore. He's flying now. He's causing a problem, solving your old one, making a new one. That's when Deus Exes aren't as bad, because it's like, oh, this is normal because everything's messed up. So it's like, all right, everything doesn't make sense.
I
think like my example is like, probably I can't think of anything else, but like for example, like Berserk. The very end of the eclipse, like the Skull Knight breaks through the barrier, and like I was like, finally some hope in this fucking universe. And like he saves like both Guts and Casca, but like before that I felt like this story is gonna end, because there's like no way that they can escape this, and then he just pops out of nowhere.
See, that's interesting, because that whole scenario was just messed up, and you're like, oh my god, when is this going to end? And then boom,
and then Deus Ex Machina. That was like something that was like, yes, please.
I have an actual example of the trope that is the character Dixon in Xenoblade Chronicles 1.
Okay,
and he's he's the basically uncle who raises the main character, and he appears out of nowhere 2 or 3 times. I think about 3 times to save the day, because he's just so awesome. Imagine this biker guy with a Hulk Hogan touch, and it's just awesome. You're not complaining that it's Dixon, because Dixon is cool. However, there's an explanation as to why he can even do that, because spoilers, Dixon is the left hand of the actual evil guy who is basically guiding the whole story in order to get what he wants. So Dixon's job is to make you grow up so that you can become a vessel for him. So Dixon, being an actual demigod in disguise as a mortal, is saving you a couple times, as well as another character who is basically a god and just gives you some hints once in a while.
Yeah, sounds like your sacrificial avatar scenario as per usual. Oh, all right.
Yeah, but the side character functions like a Deus Ex Machina.
Oh.
But it makes sense why he does that later on.
Yeah, see, these things can make sense. Like these random events that get resolved, they just have to be set up that way. And hopefully there's a payoff that is the scenario, as opposed to just coming out of nowhere and creating a new problem and messing things up. So I can think of two, if anyone has any more. The classic one is in literature, which is the Grave of the Fireflies. What is that book called? No, Lord of the Fire.
Lord of the Flies.
Lord of the Flies. I'm sorry. I was thinking of something else.
Lord of the Flies, yeah.
Lord of the Flies, right at the end, it looks like our main character is going to die, and all of a sudden this Navy officer comes out of nowhere, comes ashore, and goes, "What the hell? Why is this island on fire? What are these kids doing?" So that was always, the adult comes into the world of children and saves the kids, or the one guy at least. That's the classic example where I learned the term. But for me, it's always been the Star Child at the end of Mass Effect 3, and that just ruins everything. If the story itself was not already ruined, it's now ruined even further. So that's why I say there's two Deus Exes. There's the actual flying mysterious microphone of questionable value, and the out of nowhere Godchild who tries to tell you what's going on. Oh, and Shepard, if you want to choose the synthesis ending, I guess technically that makes him a machine, or the transcendent ending, the blue one ending, where he turns into the next god. It's a mess at that point. It doesn't matter what you choose.
I would add another detail to Dixon and why he works as a Deus Ex Machina, because he is the second to last big boss that you fight. So in his demigod form, in his true form. So you've had the entire story set up of first, this is your friend, and he Deus Ex saves your party from absolutely insurmountable odds and events that you can't where you can't save yourself.
You can't foresee. You can't do anything. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so it's too big. It's too big a problem, and Dixon comes in to save the day.
Yeah.
And then at the end, you have to fight and beat the guy who's been saving you from insurmountable odds. And that's the setup of, oh shit.
Yeah.
I think that's why this works.
Yeah, if there's some payoff, some value, like some trade-off of drama or comedy that you say, this doesn't make sense, but you know what? It's kind of sad that we have to do this and go through it. It kind of gives some value to the audience to say, okay, I don't believe the logic of this or the probability of this happening, but there's some level where the audience appreciates what they're getting. So that's always a hard sell. And not when you have multiple Deus Exes like in Mass Effect 3, but limit your bad tropes to bring out good qualities like dialogue and drama, and I think you'll be okay.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. I think we're all good to go. We're all in the watch together.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. It's 15 minutes. Won't take too long. She can't screw this up, right? This is totally normal. This is easy.
Okay. It always begins like this.
Okay.
This video was sponsored by Campfire. I can't believe they swept out of nowhere and totally saved the day. One of the many key differences between fiction and reality is that the real world has a lot more stuff happening in it. An individual person's life experience might seem rather narrow and uneventful, but they're surrounded on all sides by the turbulent chaos of trillions of other factors. The lives of the people around them, the complex socio-political climate of the slice of the world they inhabit, the day-to-day weather and its many factors, the gravitational and electromagnetic consequences of cosmic events billions of years old. So, much like an object spinning through space, there's always a chance they'll smack into something unexpected. A random twist of fate caused by some someone halfway around the world they'll never meet or even potentially know exists causes a ripple effect that dramatically impacts the course of their life. An omniscient observer would be able to trace the exact confluence of factors that led to this specific twist of fate happening, but to Joe Average, these events would seem arbitrary and surprising, a random intrusion into the otherwise predictable course of their life. They might credit it to karma or personal merit or the will of the universe, but ultimately, things just happen sometimes. This is such a fundamental concept to the way reality works that it's interesting how gauche it is to use it in fiction.
It's not a fundamental... What do you mean? Are you aware of the unknown? No. If you are aware, then you go, oh, that's a mystery. What is that? And you discover it. And you try to figure it out. I don't think it's...
Maybe she read the script, so it's no longer...
Yeah, this is like stuff that happens around you. You're unaware of. It's like, yes, every single moment of your life. This is true.
I'm just glad she turned the background music a little lower, so it's still the same track after all. I thought it was a different one, but it's the same.
It's expensive to get the new one, you know?
She hasn't changed anything yet. It's the same format for the past few years.
I think she's talking fast and with less punctuation. Maybe hoping that people don't notice when she screws up.
Okay, here's Sam Hyde. Thanks, Sam. Finally got to mark the queen of my list. Off my list? Oh, the death. Oh. Okay, Sam Hyde. Killing people. Thanks. We get it. Oh, boy.
That was tasteless.
That was a bit too soon, sir. Give it 48 hours at least. Okay, Jesus.
Oh, another good... Two
that must have had something to do with Queen Elizabeth, didn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Two other Deus Exes in one game, that is Lufia.
Oh, no.
Deca, he's just funny. It's great. You think he's dead, and then he saves the day. And references that he's been on crazy adventures while being off screen.
I don't think it's well, maybe in a time when you see him come back, you're like, oh my God, it's him. That's kind of random. But I think there's an actual trope for that. Like they come out of nowhere and you thought they were dead.
Yeah, well, it's. I think it does fit into the Deus Ex Machina.
It is the same impact, yeah.
Yeah, but it's with Deca, it's like, oh my God, he's alive! I'm so happy because he's a cool character.
As opposed to, why is there a flaming chariot saving the daughter of Medea out of nowhere, and then she runs off, and you're like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, and the other is Iris, the mystery character, prophet, guide, oracle, goddess. That turns out to have been one of the Sinistrals, the end bosses, who was working against the others in disguise.
I would say it's more of a reveal than a Deus Ex, unless he comes out of nowhere to save the day or resolve it.
She did come out of nowhere and did some stuff once. I don't remember because it's so long ago that I played the game.
Yeah, it's tough to measure that because there's all these scenarios where you walk into a scene or the character is moving to another room, and then something happens in the room out of nowhere. You're like, oh my God, it's a surprise, and they're powerful and crazy, and what's going on? So that does happen a lot in stories.
Yeah. Though, of course, later on it comes out as that she was deliberately that's not random. And Tyler Preston, Deca was not faking his death. He was just presumed dead because everybody was fleeing the bloody dungeon and Deca didn't make it, so everybody assumed he's gone. He's a goner. So it was always this vague thing of we accepted he's probably dead, and then near the end of the game, he's just saving the day, coming crashing through a wall or something.
Yeah. He was only mostly dead, and then he came back.
Yeah. We need a DLC with his story.
Coincidences, happenstances, or really anything that seems to come out of nowhere. No matter how realistic it is for unexpected things to happen, a lot of the art of storytelling is about guiding the audience through a linear journey with an internal logic that the audience can follow. Introducing important plot-altering factors with insufficient build-up can feel like it's breaking some fundamental principle of storytelling. This is why, for as long as it's existed, the trope of the Deus Ex Machina has been a smidge controversial. Deus Ex Machina, Latin for God from the Machine, is a concept that originated in ancient Greek theater. Tragedies would frequently be resolved resolved by the sudden appearance of a literal god who would typically be lowered onto the stage by a mechane, a crane producing the illusion of flight. Euripides was a big fan of this trope, notably utilizing it in Medea when she escapes in Helios' golden chariot, in Helen when the Dioscuri appear out of nowhere to convince the king not to kill his sister for letting Helen escape, and in Alcestis when Heracles appears out of nowhere to save Alcestis from the underworld. Aristotle was one of this trope's earliest critics, stating that a story should be resolved by factors internal to the plot rather than external influences, which he saw as kind of a cop-out. Other critics of the trope expressed frustration that protagonists were miraculously saved from tragic endings, because sometimes we like a good tragedy, and sometimes the sad ending is thematically important, and sometimes it's just more realistic for things to not work out perfectly for everyone. But despite the criticism, the Deus Ex Machina was a crowd pleaser. A lot of audiences really liked seeing their heroes rewarded with happy endings, no matter how unlikely or contrived they seemed on paper. The current popular definition of a Deus Ex Machina is a plot device that resolves a seemingly unresolvable problem via an unexpected, improbable, or otherwise unpredictable event.
Well, yeah, but the reason this occurs is the writer has written themselves into a corner, and they don't know what to do. That's usually the case.
I don't like this popular definition right now. Shit, she just explained it for once the correct way, and now she's like this. Come on, we don't have to overcomplicate this goddamn definition.
Yeah, it's not that difficult to understand.
Is killed by a meteor strike or sudden heart attack, a hero avoids falling to their death by suddenly sprouting wings, a character is rescued from imprisonment by way of spontaneous alien abduction, etc. Despite the iffy connotations of this trope, many classic stories have featured Deus Ex Machinas of various kinds. War of the Worlds is a pretty classic example, where the unstoppable Martian invasion is ended by the fact that the Martians are revealed to have no immune resistance to any of Earth's diseases, and the common cold spontaneously wipes them out. Lord of the Rings also features one that Tolkien was aware of and very wary of. Naturally, the famous
No, this goddamn thing with the Eagles. Okay, the thing with the ring. Yoka, you're really farting a lot. Can you stop, please? Thank you. So what? The Eagles, you have the Eagles, and they have to carry the ring, because she's gonna bring that shit up, isn't she? But why didn't they go with the Eagles to carry the ring to Mordor? Because the Eagles can be corrupted by the ring as well. They want that shit for themselves. Yeah, because they're very proud creatures as well. So the fact that the Hobbit took the ring, because they are very simple people. They don't care too much about power themselves. It is kind of a miracle, because that's literally the only race that could have done that.
Okay, but
of course, all of them have done that, but this has been brought up so many times. As Tolkien knew this, and he did it anyway. No, he has never admitted that this is the flaw. He has admitted that Lord of the Rings isn't perfect as a story, and he's right. No story is perfect, but the Eagles being a problem that he admitted is a false fact that people keep repeating to this day, and I hate listening to this.
I don't recall, but I think she might be referring. Because people talked about this before, but not the why didn't they just take the Eagles? It's how did the Eagles know where to find them at that point and save whoever they save? Because I never read past
the Hobbit. They save the Bilbo and the dwarves when they are cornered by the goblins. I believe the goblins and some kind of wolves are chasing after them, and they get stuck on a tree, and they need to call the Eagles to escape. The Peter Jackson version is some orcs chasing them, but that's just bullshit. In the books, they just call because the Gandalf has helped the leader of the Eagles, so he's returning a favor to them.
I see.
But I think in Lord of the Rings, I only saw the movie. Is that Gandalf again calls an eagle to save himself from a Saruman, because he's kept as a prisoner, so he can't help the Fellowship. But yeah, that's the only way for him to escape. But of course, other than that, I think the eagles only come at the very end of the Return of the King. That's all we see of them.
Yeah, we could even stretch that even further to, let's say, The Last Jedi, where we see the lightspeed ramming, which just comes out of nowhere and would revolutionize all space combat as we know it, and everyone seemed to know about it. Everyone was like, "Oh my God, we know what she's doing," and it's like, you do? Really? Everyone knew this was a thing, and no one did it because I don't know. There's certain protocols you follow in wartime and space, so it's kind of silly to see that. And that I wouldn't classify as the same thing, but at the same time, you're like, what is she trying to do? And you're like, what's the big deal? And then kaboom! Like, oh.
Of course, it's not in the movies, but a better example of a Deus Ex Machina in Lord of the Rings would be Tom Bombadil saving the hobbits.
There's a certain moment where he pops up and saves them from the Ents, and or the Ents are confused.
The trees.
Yeah, those are. Yeah, I don't. It depends. It really depends. I have to look at the context because imagine if. I don't know, the magical chariot hangs around and has a story and talks to everyone. Be like, oh, the god came down and now the god's talking to us and explaining stuff and singing and dancing and sleeping and feeding the heroes. And you're like, wow, that's an interesting god you got there. So I believe the concept is the god comes out of nowhere, saves the day and takes off. And everyone was like, what the hell was that? What was that strange creature that came out of nowhere? So maybe,
I have to return to my planet.
Yeah, maybe there's a certain time delay that says, oh, that's a Deus Ex Machina problem, and we didn't get enough exposition or something like that. I don't know. It'd have to get case by case basis because the definition is very specific. So anyway,
giant eagles that turn up Hobbit and Lord of the Rings to rescue our protagonists from assorted high places. Tolkien was terrified of overusing the eagles because they had the potential to render almost every threat in the story moot, so he tried to use them as sparingly as he could to avoid removing the narrative stakes. Now, while classic ancient Greek Deus Ex Machinas tended to come out of basically nowhere in the form of literal divine intervention, that specific flavor of Deus Ex Machina is much less common these days, and modern Deus Ex Machinas sometimes actually receive sprinklings of foreshadowing to try and integrate them into the story more cleanly. For some people, this is enough to classify them as not Deus Ex Machinas on the principle that a Deus Ex Machina has to fully come out of nowhere to count, but I don't think this is a particularly helpful delineation to try and draw. Deus Ex Machinas exist in a gray area with highly unclear boundaries. Some of them are completely separate from the events of the story thus far, while others make a certain amount of sense in hindsight. As long as they unexpectedly enter the story to specifically solve a problem, I think they count. But there is analytical value in subdividing Deus Ex Machinas according to how much foreshadowing they receive. At the low end, we've got negative foreshadowing. These are Deus Ex Machinas that don't just come out of nowhere, they actively contradict established rules of the story or setting. These have a lot of overlap with bad plot twists that prioritize shock value over actually making sense, but in this case they prioritize solving the plot over making sense within the plot. This can be frustrating for a lot of reasons, and often makes less sense on a second viewing with the benefit of hindsight, unless post Deus Ex Machina they do a really good job of explaining why the story was previously wrong about what is and isn't.
What is an established agility?
Sorry?
It's just my English is failing for this.
Oh, I see what you're saying. A character
it's
does
some kind of stat.
Ability?
It's some kind of stat in an RPG. I believe.
I think it's supposed to be a ability and not agility.
Yes.
I read a G instead of. I think it's supposed to be.
It's a B.
Okay.
They turn into
great handwriting, by the way.
Your handwriting's shit.
They turn to Bruce Lee suddenly. He's like, how'd you do that? Yeah. So this is what we were talking about before. Yeah. Or your example of Lufia, where he comes back from the dead. You're like, whoa, he's alive. So.
Yeah, but he wasn't. He wasn't confirmed that. He was very, very believably assumed that.
Include a character displaying abilities previously a person thought to be dead turning up to save the day with no explanation given for their survival, a supernatural force intruding on a previously completely grounded and realistic setting, stuff like that. These Deus Ex Machinas are almost always pretty bad unless they do a lot of heavy lifting to retroactively explain how the supposed rules they broke were never actually a problem. For instance, a lot of urban fantasy stories technically start with a Deus Ex Machina when a character who thinks they're living in a normal grounded setting is abruptly yanked into the secret world.
That's not a Deus Ex.
It's not a Deus Ex Machina.
That's not. I think I have seen enough that it has been established that he has been watching over this bitch. So he was explaining that something like this would happen.
Exactly. So this whole story is a love affair between this girl and this vampire dude, who we find out is a vampire who has other powers
and Batman.
And it's et cetera, et cetera. So that's not. It's kind of like if the story is about the god who comes down in the first 10 minutes to save a guy, and he stays around. Like that would be the story. So no, that's not a Deus Ex Machina. It happens at the end of his story, not the beginning.
By way of rescue from peril, which seems like it's breaking the rules of the setting, but is really just establishing the real rules the story's going to be working on from now on. But if they happen late in the game, like a character developing a brand new problem-solving superpower out of nowhere right when they need it in the finale, it's pretty much always going to feel like a rule breaker. The Force is pretty bad about this, mostly because it's very loosely defined and every Star Wars property is written by different people who need the Force to do different things. So it's pretty much traditional for the Force to spontaneously
No, it's not. It's like we have established like some basic rules. Like let's go back to like the original trilogy.
Sure.
Is that like we can move things with the Force? Yeah, okay. Let's move like the torpedo that Luke has to shoot exactly to the Death Star's core.
The Force didn't suddenly start doing new things until the sequels.
Yeah,
it's just like
the things that the Force would do.
Shit.
The things that the Force would do was pretty consistent throughout the original trilogy and the prequels. It wasn't until the sequels that suddenly it started doing new shit.
Yeah, now you can resurrect
So she's wrong
people.
about that.
Mm-hmm. Now you can be
totally
a ghost and like call down lightning out of the sky.
Yeah, this is why I always say Deus Exes are a bad trope used by bad writers. That's how it exists. When a bad writer does anything in fantasy or sci-fi or any kind of metaphysical element, and it doesn't make sense, and it comes out of nowhere, and it solves the plot, you're like, oh, how did that happen? That's usually Deus Ex. So,
and then the thing happened, and then the next thing happened, and then the other thing happened, and then the character that I don't want to die did the new thing because he's awesome.
Yeah, like look at Leia in TLJ. Like she could fly, or she could use the Force, which does make some sense because she's weightless, but how is she breathing? How did she survive the vacuum of space? How did she open the door? Like there's all these questions that pop up with that would be fine if they were alone, but because they're together, it's like this is so unbelievable. And it keeps happening throughout the film. And we need episode 9 to explain it or something stupid. Okay.
God.
Or is to solve whatever problem the heroes are facing. Telepathy, stranded in space away from the
No, like
what?
Get the fuck out! No, telepathy was like already established in the first movie, New Hope. Like Obi-Wan's ghost is talking with Luke the entire battle that they are doing, and even like right after like he dies by Darth Vader. No, like of course, like they can do that.
That's not telepathy in the sense because it's only Force ghosts talking to other people
who are Force sensitive, yeah, or Force users.
It's not that the living are talking to each
right.
other.
With episode,
that was just the foreshadowing that like Leia is also Force sensitive, which means that like they are like siblings, but
with
she's already reaching.
Yeah, with episode 7,
it's mainly the Force in the original trilogy is very non-invasive. What you can do with it. It's a bit ability enhancing for intuition, concentration, a little bit of chance that it in effect makes better. And then you have the Emperor doing lightning shit.
Right. When you see episode 7 with the introduction of Kylo Ren and he does the telekinesis to freeze a blaster bolt, you're like, oh, telekinesis, that's the Force. That's fine. It's established you can move things with your mind, so it's okay. You could stop things with your mind as well.
Yeah, so, no, that seemed like an in-universe fitting thing that someone from what we knew about the Force might actually be able to pull off if he's really powerful.
Right. So we don't need to know.
Then weird shit happened.
Yeah, we don't need to know every single conceivable manifestation of the Force to know that, oh, this is a category of telepathy or telekinesis or moving really quickly.
For many video games, we accept more odd Force powers because they're video games and they're non-canon. And they're just fun.
Yeah.
Astral projection. Someone's dead. Flanagan about that one. A step up from this, we get no foreshadowing. This is what a lot of people consider the platonic ideal of a Deus Ex Machina. A day saver that comes out of nowhere with no overt plot point setting it up that still doesn't really disrupt the rules of the setting. We had no reason to think it would happen, but it does make sense that it could happen. Examples include a character displaying a new skill or ability they recently learned or perfected off screen, a previously unintroduced character showing up to save the day, our hero pulling out a new weapon that hasn't been shown before, basically any scenario where something or someone previously unseen but still grounded in the established rule.
I didn't like the Castlevania cartoon, but that weapon was shown before. That was a bad example, right?
Well, with what's her face, Sypha, she is super overpowered. Like she's so many powers, and she manipulates ice like it's nothing, and she could take on an army if she wanted. So there's a lot of other problems with Castlevania. I don't think a Deus Ex is one of them, though.
Yeah, but the dagger at the end, I don't remember where it was from, but it was previously established. It's not coming out of nowhere.
Right.
Also, like the DBZ example, like I'm not a fan of the show, but like Trunks like appearing is that really Deus Ex Machina? Like,
no, it's just like weird.
That was just like a time travel plot introduced to the story.
Yeah.
Here is, sorry, we got some super chats I didn't notice. Sorry, guys. Copperal, thank you, sir. I think Red might be my ex. Sorry for causing this.
No way, because like Red doesn't want to have sex with anyone, so it's a genetic dead end.
Oh my gosh. I don't know how you.
She is a proud asexual. She wants to be?
What would happen in a relationship which cause the other partner to want to just study TV tropes? I don't get it.
Yes, it's like at first, like when I heard that like it's blue and red, I was like, oh, they're probably a couple. No, they are just roommates.
I thought they were siblings.
Or siblings?
Really?
I don't fucking know. But like they are, they just don't have anything.
She has no interest in
just
sex.
Like they are using the same Twitter account as well. Like for fuck's sake, like what kind of person does that?
Do they have the same bank account too?
Yes, they're sharing what? They're sharing everything.
I wanted to make a joke.
I don't know.
Well, here's another super chat. Let's not speculate on their relationship.
Better not.
Teleporting items through space is the BS broken.
Yes, yeah. But episode 9, episode 9, like introduced that like you can now teleport objects in with the Force.
Oh. Right.
You remember that one?
Episode 9's a mess, so it's kind of hard to follow.
Yeah, I totally forgot until like the super chat brought it up.
I have not watched it, and I have no intention to.
They create space.
You're not missing out on anything.
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
Mm-hmm. I just don't want to get aneurysms from Exegol. Thanks,
you just
Abrams.
Like lower the brightness of your monitor by 90%, and you're good to go.
Oh, you know, Wisp. There's a what is it called? A nightlight in Windows. If you have Windows, just turn that on, and then install Flux, and then crank that up.
Fuck no. These are full screen flashes, strobe lights in
nightlight. That's why, because it blocks it by default.
Yeah, it blocks the blue light from.
Blue light and flashes.
Yeah, so
tones it down.
You know what it's like? Imagine, how Star Trek Next Generation had those weird black computer consoles with the yellow. Mm-hmm. Imagine everything's red. Imagine your whole screen is red.
God, and she's talking as well.
Just redshift at all?
Everything's turned into a red shade.
I was accepting this stupid strobe light effects in Farscape because they didn't have much budget and it was all relatively low, but the writing was interesting and the characters and actors were amazing. But Abrams Star Wars does not have that. It just has a big budget. Hey, you have a big budget. Let's mess it all up.
Yeah. All right, 6 minutes in, we're doing fine. Let's keep going.
grounded in the established rules of the world appears to solve the problem. Almost all classical Greek Deus Ex Machinas fall into this category as they existed in a setting where gods and heroes regularly meddled with the lives of regular mortals, so random divine intervention was a precedented concept. These Deus Ex Machinas often make sense in hindsight even without any foreshadowing. The example in War of the Worlds demonstrates this, as the audience is given no reason to suspect the Martians would succumb to the common cold, but it does make sense that space aliens would be unprepared for Earth's infectious diseases, since that follows from what the audience is expected to know about acquired immunity and vaccines and stuff. These Deus Ex Machinas couldn't necessarily be predicted, but do make sense in hindsight. Then you get cases of low foreshadowing, where concepts that...
I don't see that as a Deus Ex, because the narrative explains why this is happening, why the aliens are losing. It's not like, oh my god, they suddenly start dying and no one has any concept why, and they just go away and they all die. And you're like, okay, that's the story.
For all its faults, that movie, like that's not one of them.
I don't think so. Yeah, there's partly it, but not all the way.
Play at first.
Hard to say with that, but I don't think it is. Here is Jean-Luc Ritard. Hey, Jean-Luc. Women on YouTube and its consequences have been a disaster for YouTube kind. For God's sake, women, not every plot convenience is a Deus Ex. Did she just get famous early? I can't fathom anybody enjoying this content unironically. Okay, she's not completely, this is the thing with Red. She's like 90% there. And she does a pretty good job explaining things, and then she gives examples, and then she starts, I don't know, giving her own opinion, and it's just like...
Getting off the rails and inserting weird feminist, communist, esoteric shit.
Ever since like Trump was elected, like she has...
It's kind of like someone reads the Cole's Notes and think they understand it, and they start making up their own examples, and you're like, that's not quite what it talked about. Where did you...
Yeah.
It's that sort of feeling I get from her.
Because I remember, it must have been 2009 or 10, that I watched some of her stuff, and back then, I thought, this is kind of interesting, because I haven't looked much into this type of content before. I don't know if it was better back then, but I maybe I was just dumb. Like we all were 10 years earlier.
Well, after the experience that is Mass Effect 3, Deus Exes are embedded in my memory, whether I like it or not. So it's like, oh, this is how you don't do an ending. Like, yeah, exactly. So
you know, like the biggest Deus Ex was probably Deus Ex 2: Invisible War. Like the fact that like that game just popped out of nowhere and then disappeared. That was probably like the biggest.
I think the selling of the studio from Square Enix and then acquired by Eidos again is like, whoa, that's a Deus Ex.
For Human Revolution, yeah.
Is Warren Spector involved in anything?
No.
I wish they brought the same like Mary DeMarle and JJB and all those other guys that worked on the original game and say, hey, now you got a bigger budget. Now you're not concerned with all these stupid politics from Japan, and just make your own game and bring back...
Actually, Warren Spector and like the original gang, I think like they are involved in System Shock 3. But like that is all news.
It's going to be a third?
We're still waiting.
Yeah, like it has been in works for like several years now, actually. And they're bringing back like everyone, like Shodan's voice actress and like the musician dude as well. Like everyone.
Our new Duke Nukem Forever?
No,
a remaster.
I think like the last thing that I heard about that was that like they have been bought by a Chinese company, so that's not good news. Now it's just in limbo.
It should be another Deus Ex Mobile then.
Well, they also own Thief, which is cool. Thief is a pretty good franchise.
System Shock Mobile.
Anyway,
I think like they sold that license to someone else.
I just heard they reacquired it, but I know they sold the studio to someone else. I don't know about the licenses.
You mean Looking Glass or?
I don't remember who bought it. This was like last week or two, and then just today I found out that Eidos reacquired the IPs to Deus Ex and Thief. Oh, and Tomb Raider.
It's kind of impressive that Eidos is still alive. Like I thought like they would have gone bankrupt by now.
I know, it's one of those weird Canadian success stories where they were shelved for years because of whatever dumb shit Square Enix was doing with their marketing, because they didn't want to market the product. They thought that they would take away from their own sales. It's like, what the What are you talking? That's a world away. How could that even happen? So,
I don't know, like whatever shit like Square Enix was pulling. Like I think like the most disgusting one was like when Mankind Divided was
cut short
promoted, and like the promotion material for that, like they kept like in the marketing material is that like they kept like giving like very scummy deals that like if you pre-order now, then you can access some of the DLC missions, and like nobody liked that. Nobody liked it at all.
There were points.
It's like I think it was double the price as well.
Yeah, they were like, what is it, multiplayer points? And they just got rid of multiplayer. I can't remember what the heck that was. Yeah, some weird
something like that.
Weird thing. That was kind of silly. Everyone got angry. But it's a shame because the game
Human Revolution was a good one.
Yeah,
like,
that was.
I don't know how they did that.
That was so well put together, minus the boss fights, and they fixed that on the remake.
The director's cut, you mean?
Yeah, the director's cut, right? Yeah, but the second game was cut short for sure. So.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Quite a shame because I was looking forward to it because like Devil had been like the bridge between the original Deus Ex and like the Human Revolution.
It's so weird to have it in Prague and like have a futuristic setting in Prague. You're like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Like, how does that work?
Yeah.
But they had other hubs, not other hubs, but other levels which were very techno oriented.
Well, I really like the fact that like it was getting to like the financial depression because like Human Revolution was already like you could see it from the surface that like it's coming down to like the Deus Ex era of like corruption and like desperation as well. And at least like I can give it that Mankind Divided was going for that as well.
Yeah,
but like now you can see like how did humanity get to this low.
Oh yeah, but
like they still have the technology as well.
But this is the funniest thing for me. The sequel was they did the canon ending of the fourth ending in the first game, which is to blow everything to hell.
Yes.
And I'm like, are you crazy?
That is so stupid.
It's such the dumbest ending you could possibly choose. And somehow, even miles and miles underneath the ocean, Adam is still alive. Everyone else dies. You're like, why?
Is he cryogenically frozen?
Wait, the canonical ending is that you just destroy everything?
It was the most...
The canonical ending is that all the endings happen.
No. No, it's the most, what's the word? Nihilistic. Like, if you actually listen to the ending of, the fourth ending of Deus Ex Human Revolution, he just says, I'm not wise enough to do this, but you know what? Neither is anyone else. Boom!
Yeah.
Kill them all. Like, what?
Oh, I think
that's
awesome. I think I'm like mixing it up with the first game because like
that's awesome.
When I play like Invisible War, like I remember that like all the endings happened like in the first game that like the Illuminati took over, and then they also like blew up Area 51. And what else? And like you also merged with the Super AI.
Oh yeah, the original.
So like all of those happen, and then you begin the Invisible War. Like, well, JC Denton is a god, but like he's like a wanted criminal. Anyway, the Illuminati took over the entire world. Like, how the fuck did they do that?
Yeah, there's a few stories in there we'd like to be told. So to do a prequel is a very interesting idea in that world. And to do it
so close
in a high-end techno element while still having non-hugely technological elements like AI is being developed, and there's all these other shadow conspirators that you are learning about that don't get too much screen time. It's a nice taster, and you wanted more. Like, I wanted to see more of Mankind Divided. I wanted to know what was going on.
Same, until it crashed on me and deleted my save file.
Wow, holy crap.
Like, I think, like, what was the next location after Prague? I can't remember. But, like, around that, like, I got to the middle of it. And then, for some reason, like, hard crashed so much that, like, my save files got deleted.
You know?
And like, you have to, like, connect to, like, Square Enix bullshit as well. So, I was, like, wondering, like, can it, like, store my save files? And apparently not.
Well, there's that wonderful scene. I don't know if you guys remember the camp in Dragon Age, the first game, where you go back to the camp.
No, I never played that.
Well, if you go to the camp in Dragon Age, you get this really soothing music, after every mission, everyone has something to say. Everyone talks to you. Everyone's like, wow, that was crazy. And it's like this nice sort of reprieve from the mission. And we got the same sort of element in Mankind Divided, where you go back to Task Force 29's secret base, like every time in Prague, and the music starts up, and you go down the elevator, and all your friends are, well, not your friends, but people you worked with, they all, oh yeah, you did this crazy thing. Like, it's that sort of vibe that I felt, and the music is excellent. Like, the soundtrack is fantastic. So to hear that sound again, in that sort of, not synthwave, but it's that techno-ish synth sound, it's just so cool and so slick. And you're in this, ancient city where everything's stone and brick. And you're like, what? It's technological underneath. Anyway, let's keep going. Deus Ex Human Reproduction. There we go. Thank you, sir. Deus Ex is one of the most base games I've ever played. It calls out the UN, the Rothschild, the Rockefellers, and has a hallmark of a great piece of media. Leftist communists think it supports their personal politics when it doesn't. It's amazing. The setting is so high end. It's a world you want to explore. With Elias Tefexis as the voice actor, who's very, very dry. So it works very well. So yeah, it's a fun world to go into, and I hope we get more. If I live long to see it, maybe they'll do a Kickstarter in 20 years or whatever the ratio. I can't know what the ratio is at the death of a company like Konami. Like Konami was like dead in the 2005, 2006. So maybe 10, 20 years later, they come up with all the guys from developers from Konami or Eidos. We're going to make our own version of Deus Ex, and we're going to go on Kickstarter. So who knows? Anyway, let's keep going.
Play into Deus Ex Machina are subtly planted in the story before they pay off in the big Deus Ex Machina.
I think we all, anyone who knows Alpha Protocol wants more, for sure.
I do not want the bloody level with the train. Fuck the level with the train. Ding 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 ding. Ding 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 ding. Oh god.
Yeah, but the fight with the
What kind of train station is that? Where giant trains rush through every 20 seconds.
the fight with the drug lord in Russia is the best, so it makes up for it. Anyway.
For instance, a character may briefly mention they've been working on a project off-screen that later turns out to be a badass new weapon, or they might name-drop an ally who later shows up to rescue them, or they establish some sort of connection to a supernatural force that later intervenes to save the day. This is where this trope begins to cross over with Chekhov's gun, where a seemingly innocuous detail is planted early in the story and pays off in the climax. That's very different. However, these Deus Ex Machinas will still feature surprises for the audience. It's only likely
by the way, I have bad news for you. System Shock was acquired by Tencent, and Warren Spector has hinted that like his System Shock 3 sequel is dead.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, no surprise.
Well, what she's saying about Chekhov's gun is the idea of a setup and a payoff, that you don't introduce elements that don't have some relevance or plot relevance.
It's not a Deus Ex.
It's not, but she's trying to connect it, and as soon as you connect it, then it's no longer a Deus Ex. So
yeah, and Slayers did not have a Deus Ex of that kind. Using the Giga Slave that summons the actual creator goddess is not that.
Yeah.
Foreshadowed, so the audience exactly how it's going to play out. A couple decent examples of this can be found in the Season 1 finale of Last Airbender, where Princess Yue sacrifices herself to restore life to the Moon Spirit. While this is an unprecedented idea, Yue's connection to the Moon Spirit is established earlier in the same episode. She explains to the gang that she was healed by the Moon Spirit as a baby, resulting in her hair turning white. This plants the idea that she has a lasting connection with the life of the Moon Spirit, but it's still a bit of a surprise that in the finale she can give that life back. Similarly, in the same episode, Aang and the Ocean Spirit team up to waterbend a kaiju and wreck shop on the Fire Nation, which is, again, new, but it's based on two established factors. Firstly, Aang, as the Avatar, is the bridge between the human and spirit worlds and can commune and connect with spirits in a way nobody else can. And secondly, in the Avatar state, Aang can do all—
So why is she talking about this if she knows it's not a Deus Ex? Like, what's the point?
I
because
don't know
she's
either.
dumb.
I'm lost.
Here's an element that's not a Deus Ex.
What she's doing?
Yes, you're right. So is like
isn't like there's also like in that it has like a low introduction at least that like it's like people have been foreshadowing these moments.
Well, yeah, foreshadowing.
Because like, if I remember correctly from Avatar, like
she's just getting sidetracked. That's all it is.
I think so. Yeah.
She's just getting sidetracked.
Was she trying to make a connection between a Deus Ex and Chekhov's gun, or is
yes,
that it's the same, or is she just mentioning it to note, hey, by the way, this is a different thing, don't mix them up?
Right, with flashbacks, with setups and payoffs. Yeah, you're right. Those are good things. We need those.
That is actual writing.
Yeah. I remember the setup and payoff in the first episode of Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, where Elrond is writing a script and he doesn't like it, and then the king says the script where he fixed it.
If I'm following this right, I think the reason she's bringing this up is because she's claiming that other people have said it's a Deus Ex, and she's saying no, it's not. It's actually a Chekhov's gun. I think that's what she's saying.
Okay, interesting. Chekhov's gun is a little simpler than Aang is the connection to the spirit realm. So anything spiritual related that is unexpected is okay. That's a little harder to swallow than having a gun on a wall that you see being used a few chapters later.
It gives Aang a setup of you can do shit with spirits.
I know, but that's
and throughout the series, he's doing new shit with spirits that is set up.
Yeah, like imagine. Okay, what's that stupid game from Silicon Knights? I think that was called Beyond Human or Almost Human, or no, Too Human. Was it Too Human? Where you play Baldur, and there's all these gods running around. It's like this techno version of the gods or whatever. Like if gods just came out of nowhere and did stuff, you'd be like, well, that's fine, because when I die, the Valkyries come by and save me and bring me back to the save point. So that would be fine because you've seen an element like that, even though it's not you, but it's an element that's common. So a version of that coming out is like, yeah, whatever, it's fine. You've seen something like it before. It's like lightsabers are common in Star Wars, even though they haven't been seen for, 30 years, let's say a prequel story or the Obi-Wan series, but all of a sudden, lightsabers. And no one's ever seen that, but the audience has. So the believability is fine for the audience, but the world is like, what is that? So long as the audience is fulfilled with whatever thing is on the screen that makes sense to them, that's good. The problem arises when the characters and their plot don't make sense, when we know they should, or they should know better to do what they want.
Smud, after you mentioned Rings of Power, Space Junk now expects an in-depth plot analysis of every episode.
It's really slow. It's not that bad in terms of plot. Like, there's just many characters in it. The problem is it's setting stuff up, and then the next 10 minutes near the end are just everything happens. You're like, oh my God. So pacing just goes out the door. And that's
that kind of childish writing.
It's like, oh, we got 10 minutes left and we spent 50 minutes set up. And then you're like, oh, we got to do everything. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I saw the first episode. I saw a little bit of the second, and I was like, I don't really care. It's fine, but I don't really care to see more. It's kind of like Picard. If I only saw the first 2 episodes, I would have been fine. Both seasons. But sadly, I'm sure it's going to get worse. Like, the setups are not going to pay off, I bet. There's too many setups, there's too many characters. It's very slow. And fantasy is supposed to be like that. Fantasy is supposed to be set up and slow and detailed and exposition dumps and all these asides and explaining things. And it's kind of like, okay, this is not for me. But I don't know. Maybe someone will say, you got to watch episode 4. Maybe I'll check it out maybe later. I'm not enthusiastic to watch it. I am enthusiastic to watch the George R. Martin prequel, but I still haven't watched it. So I just don't have time to do it. So when September's over, maybe I'll have some time. But either that, I got no time to make videos, guys. I'm sorry. I'm happy to have you guys right now, really. This is a treat. This whole week has been busy.
whole bunch of stuff he can't normally do, including huge feats of waterbending. So despite being something we've never seen him do before, Aang briefly combining with the Ocean Spirit to absolutely tear up the Fire Nation fleet isn't so unprecedented that it feels like it comes out of absolutely nowhere. It's not as random as if, like, Sokka did it. And then there's some stories where the Deus Ex Machina has high foreshadowing. These are stories when the Deus Ex Machina isn't just hinted at early on in the story, it's straight up established. It might have even shown up and affected the story before its big problem-solving Deus Ex Machina debut.
It's not a Deus Ex Machina, goddamn.
Yeah, it's a prophecy.
She asked at the end of her slide, she asked the question herself, is it even a Deus Ex Machina then? No.
Yeah, but like, she
should.
I'm not like expecting too much intelligence from her, but like, come on, like,
it's kind of like
just admit that it's not.
Can't you keep your? These are not fuzzy borders.
Yeah, you're reading.
Can't you keep things separate, Red?
She's
please?
Reading the Wikipedia. She's reading TV tropes. They tell you exactly what they are. They give you examples. It's like, why do you need to ask questions about things you know are false? There's no reason for that. Just tell us what is and show us. And why they're good and why they're bad. That's it.
Established character turns up to rescue the heroes, a powerful supernatural force known to respond predictably to specific stimuli is motivated to aid the heroes, and established Chekhov's gun turns out to be very effective when fired. These are all cases where the Deus Ex Machina does come out of nowhere to solve the problem, but we already know the basics of what it...
No.
Established Chekhov's gun.
Captain Marvel has been established as overpowered, but he still came in like a Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah, but
we hate her because everything about her is shit.
Like when you see
she's a walking Deus Ex Machina.
When you see Batman with a grappling hook, it's like, oh, he could climb walls and stuff. It's like, is that an established thing that he can do? It's like, sure, but we just saw him do it. We don't need to. Maybe he'll use his grappling hook again. It's like, yeah, or his 20 other gadgets that we don't know of, or his car.
This is what confuses me. She brought up the sequel Star Wars bullshit movies for examples of the forces doing random shit now, as proper examples of Deus Ex Machinas. Though I'm pretty sure she was a defender of those movies, or at least I would guess so from memory. I haven't looked into it. But then she brings up Captain Marvel as a positive example of that, or is she just putting random things on the screen?
No, it's an example of like high foreshadowing. That's the example for like Captain Marvel is
right.
But like that is just like doesn't work.
I don't know exactly what she means.
Nobody was hyping for her. If look at this swooping in move of destroying the Thanos' ship would have brought cheers if she was a likable character that we knew was caught up in some really, really difficult situation at the end of a movie that everybody loved, and then the audience might have gone, "Whoa, the cool hero we like, he made it from the unbelievably difficult situation." Instead, we get Captain Mary Sue and just come in and just be a Mary Sue. Just nobody cared.
Because like she doesn't have like any purpose in like Endgame.
She doesn't have any purpose.
They have just written her out because like I'm busy somewhere else.
Yeah,
because, like, you know, like,
and even in the cinema, where I was, there were people cheering and snickering when Thanos' power Infinity Stone punched her in the face and actually hurt her.
Oh, that
People
was me.
Like Captain Marvel being beaten up because she's such a cunt.
That was my favorite scene of the movie. Like I felt like bad for Thanos. I was like rooting for him. Like please, like slap the bitch.
When your hero is so shit that you suddenly start rooting for the genocidal maniac supervillain, you done fucked up.
I'm trying to remember a blatant foreshadowing. Like I'm going back to like Persona 3 with who's the guy with the yellow scarf? He says, you're going to have to kill me in like another few months or whatever it is. And he keeps reminding you that you're going to have to kill him because he's like the personification of death or whatever. And he knows what's happening. and you don't have to kill him. That's one of the choices you make in the game. So, I mean, is that high-end foreshadowing? Like it's blatantly stated, or does that even matter? Because you could have symbolic foreshadowing. You could have a prophetic dream. You could have all kinds of weird sayings that someone repeats over and over again. It's like, what does that mean? Does that even logically connect to events in the future? So there's lots of ways of foreshadowing. I don't know why high or low, like it's just say foreshadowing. It's fine. It doesn't have to be anything specific.
Look, you might question how this possibly counts as a Deus Ex Machina if the audience knows it's something that can happen and could thus theoretically anticipate its intervention, but just because something has been established to exist in story doesn't mean it can...
The T-Rex attacking the raptor, is less of a Deus Ex Machina, but rather the threat has been replaced by a bigger threat.
Right. He sort of... Well, the problem with that scene, like right there, is how did he get into the auditorium? You know, how this sort of does come out of nowhere. It's not the fact that he's big and he eats a raptor or whatever. It's just
that he comes in unnoticed. Yes.
Yeah.
But the scene itself is and this is, you could say this is a trope as well, where you have the threat in front of you that you have established as a bloody threat that you don't know what to do, and then the threat is removed by an even worse thing. That's not a Deus Ex. That's something else. That I understand why she mixes it up. Because the threat is removed out of nowhere, unexpectedly.
I don't know why she's doing this, though. I don't know why she's exaggerating or juxtaposing conflicts or scenarios. Like here's a car crash or car chase, and you're chasing the car, and all of a sudden there's a truck in the way, and all of a sudden there's a mountain in the way, and you're like, yeah, it gets bigger and harder to drive. That's true. You weren't expecting the mountain, and therefore Deus Ex is like, not really. It's a surprise. It's a mountain.
I'm getting more distracted that her avatar always looks evil.
I'm just wondering why
with the angry
her brain
eyebrows
is going in this direction, because she knows what it is and what it's not. And she's
why are you what is it, mind reading her?
Why
you don't know that she knows.
She read it. She told us what it is. She read the Wikipedia article. She heard
that doesn't mean that she was able to process it correctly.
She just read words. Everything's just reading words. She has no idea what she's talking about.
Words, what do they mean?
Be relied on to show
put
up
your
when it's
eyebrows
most
in the
convenient.
nice
An example of this sort of Deus Ex Machina is the giant eagles that save Sam and Frodo in Lord of the Rings. As mentioned, this is the third time in the series they've rescued our heroes from high-altitude peril. They're a strongly established narrative presence that the audience knows and understands. The only reason it feels like it comes out of nowhere is that the eagles are established in story to be kind of fickle and unreliable, so the
not when they're being
but like as established before, like Gandalf can call them because they own a favor for them for saving the leader of the eagles.
And Gandalf is riding them.
Yeah, Gandalf is riding them. It's always when the eagles show up, it's Gandalf is there. Like the eagles don't go on their own to save the hobbits if it wasn't for Gandalf.
There's also the little bit which is not that explicitly mentioned in the movies, I believe. The eagles are aware how corruptible the ring is.
Yes.
When they swoop in.
They are really smart creatures.
Yes. There's some of the most powerful creatures in Middle-earth.
Yeah.
They're like just what, 3 levels beneath godhood or something?
Something like that, yeah.
It's like a step beneath angel or something, whatever. But when they swoop in with Gandalf at the end to save Sam and Frodo, that's when it's safe. The ring is gone. There's no threat for the eagles anymore, because the more powerful the creature is, it's not just about pride. It's about actual your power, your Dragon Ball power level.
Yeah, I think
the more you have of that, the more easily you get corrupted by the ring. And since hobbits are these creatures that are absolutely laughable, Frodo can carry the ring all the way on foot from the Shire to Mordor. At the end, it's just barely enough. But anyone else tried to carry the ring on foot, probably wouldn't have made it halfway without turning into Gollum number 2.
And this is after the main problem of the story has been resolved. This has nothing to do with the ring itself. It's just, Gandalf's now riding eagles. He's going to go save the heroes, and he does.
Yep.
That's it.
The audience aren't expecting them to swoop in out of nowhere and save the heroes no matter how many times it's already happened. And they're still regarded as a pretty massive Deus Ex Machina by both audiences and Tolkien alike. Now, it might be tempting to assume that Deus Ex Machinas are better received when they have higher levels of foreshadowing and feel more arbitrary and cheap when they have lower foreshadowing. But in my experience, that's not really the deciding factor for how much a Deus Ex Machina is going to annoy the audience. There are plenty of no foreshadowing Deus Ex Machinas that are very well liked for sheer coolness factor, and plenty of high foreshadowing Deus Ex Machinas.
Oh, so the scene with the first Indiana Jones movie where they open up the
Ark of the Covenant is not that's not a Deus Ex Machina.
That is the plot. That is the thing everyone wants. That's the goal.
And it's set up. Indy knows that you must not look. He was told this before. You must not look.
It's the same.
Everybody else did.
I think a better example is Super Saiyan 3.
Okay.
All right.
Why?
Super Saiyan 3, because because Goku just kind of did that out of nowhere, but it was so cool that everybody liked it.
Oh.
I think like there was a build up because like Goku like trained like shit ton for that.
But he wasn't training for a new form. He was just in the afterlife. And then
I don't think like they do that for all the time. That I'm gonna like train to like get a new form. Like he gets like the first form out of like complete nowhere just because like he's so pissed.
And in
the first
form, at that point you
was
already
foreshadowed.
No, in Dragon Ball Z at that point you already expect okay, there's probably gonna be another level. Because we already got 2, why not get a third one?
It didn't get that way. It didn't get that way until the Boo Saga. It was.
I think I know what you mean now. Okay.
Boo Saga. The Boo Saga. All the kids were fucking Super Saiyan. It was stupid.
Yeah.
But that's alright. We're getting sidetracked now because of Dragon Ball.
Just watch Yu Yu Hakusho instead.
Dragon Ball does that.
So here's Turmoil again. Thank you, sir. Ark of the Covenant is a MacGuffin. I think it's the actual plot. I think that's the thing people want. It's called Raiders of Lost Ark.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think the MacGuffin might be the book from Indy's dad in the third film. His journal, because that has the path to get to the what is it called? The cup?
The Grail.
The Grail.
The Grail.
The cup. The cup.
It's just
the Grail.
The Grail.
Also, watch the Sinbad anime. That's great.
All right.
Totally not.
Lots of cool stuff.
Okay. 9 minutes, 30 seconds.
That's Mud Boy.
Okay?
Everybody. He watched Fate, but forgot the word Grail.
No, I was thinking of Monty
cutting
Python.
out? I think I'm cutting out. The cup.
Yeah, the cup. The picture in the sky, and you're like, oh yeah, it's the Grail.
The holy cup.
And I kept thinking of Sean Connery's accent. I was like, that doesn't sound... Oh yeah, okay.
Grail.
The holy cup.
Okay. 9 minutes, 30 seconds. We're doing well. Red's okay. I'm not that pissed off by Red. She's giving us weird examples. She's fine.
It's less bad than what we've seen before.
I just see a woman and I'm like pissed off by default. Like, I can't help myself. Sorry.
Okay.
The disappointing or anticlimactic. It's not a clean, single variable problem, but from what I've seen, there are a few key factors that determine how well a Deus Ex Machina goes over. The first distinction is between Deus Ex Machinas that help the heroes and Deus Ex Machinas that solve their problems for them. Helper Deus Ex Machinas might give the heroes an edge in combat that evens up a previously very unbalanced playing field, or they might kick in to help smooth over a happy ending after the heroes have already done the hard part of the big bombastic fight scene or the complicated heist mission or the climactic final showdown. Solver Deus Ex Machinas, in contrast, might one-shot the villain themselves themselves or quickly and cleanly render the whole threat moot. Solver Deus Ex Machina is essentially replaced.
Is that okay? Like, I hate Ragnarok the movie, but like the Ragnarok monster was I don't know what the fuck it was called. Like, it wasn't was it the Deus Ex Machina? Because like it was set up that like
Not really.
that Beast was there. So like I think like Thor was like perfectly aware that like, okay, if all fails, I'm just gonna release this motherfucker and like
it was a setup.
destroy.
It was a trap.
Yeah.
This was the prophecy. This is what Ragnarok is.
Yeah, it's part of the plot, just like Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Also, just the thing between Raph and forgot his name, Scar. Having the light reflects and accidentally blinds one of the combatants. That's not a Deus Ex Machina. Not really. It's just a thing happens in a fight that is common.
All right.
Bad example.
Final showdown with an external solution that nullifies the problem without ever involving the protagonists. This is liable to frustrate audiences much more than helper
the army swooping in,
which typically just make it easier or even possible.
It was set up in the story.
Yeah, this is also not. This is the ghost army swooping in that was deliberately. They went to it. So the ranger, the dwarf, and whoever else, the archer elf, went into a dungeon to do a quest to get an item in the form of the contract in this case. They just went into a side adventure.
Yeah.
To do this.
Yeah,
this was the goal. This was the aimed result.
Yeah, with Yoda.
It's not a Deus Ex Machina.
Coming
what
down.
The hell, Red? What is? Do you understand how stories work?
Yeah, Yoda coming down on an airport transport with clone troopers shooting enemies. That's not Deus Ex. That's literally a guy in a flying vehicle that we know with weapons we know.
Yeah.
Doing what they're supposed to do. It's
like I'm sorry for my dumbness, but like, can we call it a Chekhov's gun? Because like we spent like half an hour like Obi-Wan like spectating them. They're like, nice army you got in this water planet. Why are you gonna use it for? 2 hours later, like they deployed the army. Yeah, like the cool.
Yeah. It was commissioned by the Republic, and I am the Republic, so. Can I use your army? Well, you're from the Republic, right? Okay.
This is just so dumb. Like, I guess, like, if you don't have sex, you become this.
What, Red?
Yeah.
Like
everyone
your brain
should have
stops
sex.
working right?
Oh my god.
Yes. Like, if you don't have the hormones, then you just, like, you lose all your sense of logic.
Unless you're George Costanza.
There are some studies on this that indicate that you need your sex hormones for your brain to work right, or you lose IQ points.
Yes.
Same with exercise.
That is a thing. That is a thing.
All right. Well, hormones are good. Yay, hormones. Let's keep going.
See, Red. If you think you're asexual, see an endocrinologist. Get some blood work done. You may just have a hormonal imbalance.
Right.
There are, especially women with that issue. Some don't produce any progesterone. That is an issue.
Get a boyfriend. That's a good answer.
Also makes your periods easier.
There you go. Alrighty, let's keep going.
For our win without taking that victory away from them. There's a difference between a fairy godmother giving the hero a magical sword and a fairy godmother contracting the fairy corps of engineers to blast the evil emperor's doom castle with a whimsy-powered railgun. But on the flip side, sometimes if the heroes are in a fully impossible situation, the audience doesn't mind as much if a Deus Ex Machina fully bails them out.
Yes, they do. It's bad. Deus Exes are bad. Every single one is bad unless they're set up properly, and it's no longer a Deus Ex.
Or if they conclude properly, as with Dixon. He's not set up that he looks like a Deus Ex. He just acts like a Deus Ex Machina, and at the end it's revealed why he's so bloody powerful and awesome and gets everything done. So you can do it either way. You can do it before, you can do it after. But you have to do it in order for it to make sense.
It would steal
if you
away.
Don't do that, you get the Deus Ex bullshit.
It would steal away the agency of the protagonist, and usually people don't like that. So I'd have to see the actual scene to remember what the heck that did. But most of the examples, even the ones we talked about before, were like, they're not a good scenario to be in, unless it's set up, unless there's foreshadowing, as you said.
Yes, but if this is an opportunity to pitch to you to play Xenoblade Chronicles 1, you'll have 70 hours of fun.
If I have time, that's is it the Switch? What is that?
They did an HD remake for the Switch, yes.
Okay.
And otherwise, if you want to get a Wii and play it on the Wii.
All right.
Rather than a little nudge. This is especially true if the heroes have already run themselves ragged trying to solve or escape the situation and the audience just wants to see them get a break already. If a narrative situation is already really unfairly skewed against our heroes, it seems less frustrating to an audience to see random or unprecedented acts of fate pitch in to help tip the scales the other way. And sometimes our heroes are faced with problems that are just really beyond what they can be reasonably expected to handle. A Deus Ex Machina might be needed to solve the impossible part of the problem, while the parts that are just really hard are left as an exercise for the protagonists. And finally, I've seen a lot of goodwill towards Deus Ex Machinas that were just fucking sweet. This is by far the most subjective judgment of the bunch, but if a Deus Ex Machina is just really damn...
The entire name of the show was Reboot.
Yes.
The actual... Which was every time the characters were drawn into a game against the user, they had to reboot in order to load themselves up as appropriate fitting to the game they had to play. And the actual finale of the show being a reset of the entire computer is basically in line with that. It's just the same thing on a grander scale. That's kind of like foreshadowing.
Yeah, if you were into
bad Deus Ex Machina.
If you were into IBM computers at the time, you were a computer geek who's like, oh, this is so cool.
As a kid, it was a really cool show.
Yeah. Then they got even crazier with was it with the kid turning into Enzo, turning into an adult? That was kind of weird, but it was awesome.
He became, I think he wanted to become a guardian or something.
Yeah.
And the show went really, the writing went really crazy when villain 1 megabyte and villain 2 hexadecimal joined and combined to become gigabyte. It was just this Hulk virus type thing.
Yeah.
Whoa, what the hell is going on?
Cool. All right, this is Mr. Kyogre. Hey, Kyogre, how's it going? I suggest everyone play Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3. Okay. They are all huge.
How about no?
They are all huge masterpieces, getting better with each new entry. Oh, really?
I'm gonna play it if you play Coastal Redux.
I cannot speak for X, although the Wii U I board came with X, because I could not stand the bloody battle music. It drove me insane, and the music in the city, it just gave me an eternal headache.
You can't mute the music in the game?
The problem is, it only has a master volume slider. It doesn't have a separate music volume slider.
I think like that's a really bad game then.
Yeah, and I don't know, I never checked whether the Japanese version has these separate, but I can imagine with how much Nintendo of America fucked with the game for the localization by redesigning all the clothes to be less revealing and shit like that, and removing the boob slider from the character creator. I can imagine that they may have even fucked up the options for the music and they even this game doesn't even allow you to switch the camera direction for the X and Y X. The
what
Y
are
and
we
X
talking
axis.
about? Like, I think you could have stopped at the boob slider. Like, I think that's enough reason.
Yeah, well,
to not liking
it's
the game.
unplayable. It was unplayable for me. I'm sorry.
I mean, if you could do that in Mass Effect, I think that would be coming back to the game every 3 months.
I just hope they somehow re-release X as well on the Switch and then use the Japanese version and then just slam it on there and with the proper options.
Yeah, I think everyone would be playing FemShep if that were the case. That would just like 90% of all the guys would just be playing FemShep every playthrough.
I don't know what Hey
Fenshep
Jeffro
isn't the
Hale's
canon.
voice, so I can't stomach that.
You'd have a mod to put in all the voice lines from Murder
Real Shepherd
on top of Fenshep.
Yeah, I think that's quite possible. Let me look at the Nexus. There is one.
Oh no!
You've also missed out on German Shepherd.
That's too easy.
Oh, German Shepherd sample.
The dub is so horrible. It's so disjointed.
Can you imagine? Wait, no German dub, but English everything else. Like, what the?
So like Shepherd speaks German, but everyone else is
Femshep speaking male German, and everyone else is speaking English. That'd be amazing.
Oh god, I think that no one has done that before.
We gotta try it.
Kyoga in the chat, please get in touch.
All right.
I want to play that game. I bought the bloody console with it. I want to play that fucking game.
All right. Anyway. The radical factor of Deus Ex is a thing we've never heard of before.
Most people won't about it that much. The T-Rex randomly swooping in at the end of Jurassic Park to kill the raptors and let our heroes escape absolutely rules. No notes.
But it's not a Deus Ex.
Mm-hmm.
We knew they exist. His impromptu setup doesn't make too much sense because of the doorway. So it's like, how do you get in there? But the fact he exists and popped up is like, yeah, no, he could have come out anytime.
Oh, that is easily explainable. Like you see, there's a 3D software that they were using, and it allows you to put objects on the screen without them entering them physically.
He ate the doorway and he kept walking. Okay, good.
Protagonist randomly getting a giant robot literally named the Deus Ex Machina just before the final showdown with the main villain and his giant robot? Hell yeah, zero complaints. This factor is, I think...
I know that's a joke
that's
because...
Stupid.
Yeah.
Parody.
It's Studio Trigger, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's supposed to tell you, hey, my robot is much better, bigger, powerfuler than yours because it's bigger. It's literally called after the winning trope.
Yeah, it's kind of like looking at Hot Shots or Naked Gun. Like when they run out of bullets, they start throwing guns at each other in Naked Gun.
Yeah.
It's like,
They just throw bullets.
Where'd the guns come from? Who cares? It's a parody. It's supposed to be funny. It's a joke.
I could imagine, from what I've heard now, I would imagine that Red would call the Mushroom King saving you with the dragon from the crashing palace in Secret of Mana being a Deus Ex Machina, when it isn't, because the whole thing is set up by you saving the dragon before from a giant snake and bringing him to the Mushroom King to raise and keep safe.
I know that manga does this a lot, but then once the big motherly character comes in to save the day from the heroes because her daughter's in trouble, but then they have an entire comic on, the next comic is about the mom, the overprotective parent. So it's technically a Deus Ex, but then the next story explains it because manga writers know what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, it sort of works. Where you could say it comes across like a Deus Ex Machina, at first, because it's later on revealed through the story what's actually going on, is in, again, Xenoblade 2 in this instance. If you didn't spoil yourself at all, didn't know anything about the characters or the story, is when you fight against Malos and Mithra reveals herself because you can't get the bloody shit done, and she didn't want to reveal herself because she wanted to stay asleep inside of Pyra, and that comes across like superpowers that completely change the game. But there as well, it is then explained over the course of the game what is actually going on, and that Mithra is the actual character, and Pyra was just the stand-in. When up until that point you thought Pyra is the super magical character. That's maybe I'm not explaining it well. Okay. But yeah, Red would mistake that as well.
I like that she's classifying these Deus Ex Machinas. I've just never heard of them before. So I was like, oh,
She's often classifying a lot of things wrong.
It's a weird way to take it, but as soon as she starts doing that, I start saying, well, it's no longer a Deus Ex, is it? It's something else.
Well, I think this is less bad and less wrong than what she usually does, because none of this involves any human emotions, which is something that she is completely incapable of understanding.
This is weird, because when I read TV tropes, I don't start inventing my own. You do that when you write a story. You don't go, well, this trope with Jurassic Park, when the entrance of this dinosaur comes in, that's a Deus Ex because I wasn't expecting it. It's like, that's just unexpected scenario.
Yeah.
Doesn't make too much sense, but it's not like it came out of nowhere. Anyway.
I think less structural than the others discussed. For instance, both of those examples also fulfill one of the other factors, respectively, the heroes have already run themselves ragged and deserve a break, and the Deus Ex Machina just gives the heroes the tool to solve the problem rather than solving it for them, and it's also a lot harder to control for coolness as a factor when writing. Still, it is worth noting that Deus Ex Machinas can be fun enough to offset the potential dubiousness of how well this trope integrates into this story.
Yeah, but we said this before, drama, comedy, emotional impact, doesn't negate when a Deus Ex is, it's just the audience doesn't care. It's like, we like it. It's like, yeah, it's fun. It's exciting. It's a movie. It's a thing. Still Deus Ex. Still didn't have to be there. Could have done it a different way.
Ultimately, what the Deus Ex Machina struggles with. By its nature, this trope is disconnected from the story it takes place in. It intrudes on the expected progression of the story and bends it in a new direction, typically by saving characters from certain death or failure.
Yeah, but that's every story where there's danger. Like, you can't say the T-Rex is against the story. He is a dinosaur. It is a dinosaur. It exists within Jurassic Park. That's not unexpected. We saw it before many times. It's just how they got into that room at that point in time is the question.
Very satisfying to see protagonists facing seemingly impossible odds and finding a way to succeed anyway. I think there's actually a lot of merit to putting a character into a situation that's way over their head and then rescuing them later. It's like there's a habitable zone of storytelling. On one side, there's
boring zone? Danger zone. Heroes can't... What?
I'm lost.
What is this? Why would you ever start off in any of these zones, or remain in any of these? Like, this is heroes can't lose. You start a story where you're on the top of a mountain, and then everything goes badly for you, so you lose your riches. You go from riches to rags, and then you watch the climb.
That's you losing.
Yeah, but that happens at the start of a story, like an isekai or any character losing their lifestyle, their imprisonment or whatever. Danger zone heroes can't win. You could have tragedy. You could have an entire... What's the isekai that's really brutal that everyone loves? It's an anime. It's been for a while. I haven't watched it. Of all the isekais
there's so many of those.
I know it's the one where...
wait. ReZero?
ReZero, thank you. That's the one where he keeps dying. Everything gets reset back to zero.
Yeah.
And he gets like brutally killed. It's really horrific. People like that too.
Mm-hmm.
People like
It's really long to figure that out. If you would just put the winning plot episodes together, it would be a rather short show.
Yeah, but even the one on the left, the boring zone, heroes can't lose. There's plenty of stories, isekai, where the hero is overpowered by default.
Like not, I mean, the isekai, but like One Punch Man.
Well, yeah, there's a great, but that does a lot of other things outside of just having a guy who's overpowered.
Yeah,
because that just shifts his problems to another layer that is not the physical.
Yeah, I don't like her way of... Like, I know what she's saying. I actually wrote about this in my book for like a paragraph, where you have to find a balance of how do you go from a character who's like a complete moron to like the god of the universe, or vice versa. Like, you have to find a nice, believable pathway for that. You can't just have it like he keeps getting stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. It's ridiculous. You can't have...
I don't know. It worked for Asura.
But that's...
He's the same moron that he was at the beginning.
That's over the top to begin with.
But he's the same moron he was at the beginning. All he cares about is saving his daughter. It's great.
Yeah.
And it's just punch things until daughter is saved.
Until your arms get torn off. Like, what the fuck?
It's great. And even when your arms are torn off, you just start beating enemies with your legs. It's great.
Okay.
But how did she get here?
Conflict, where stories can't happen because they're too boring. Of much too ridiculous threats, where stories can't happen because the protagonists have zero chance of surviving. But the Deus Ex Machina allows stories to edge into the danger zone of extreme threats. The heroes get to try their absolute hardest in the face of impossible odds, and then the intervention of the Deus Ex Machina actually gives them a chance of succeeding in the face of this ridiculously
No, this is not when they happen. They happen because the writer has written himself into a corner and he doesn't know what to do. That's it. Not this. Whatever this is. When we see Commander Shepard get magically uplifted by a magical platform to a magical land somewhere on the Citadel where there's a magical boy who says, "I am all the Reapers," you're like, what? Let's talk for 20 minutes about how he is all the Reapers and nothing makes sense anymore, and you could be just like us. Like, what?
Wow, I would be so emotionally invested about this if there were Mass Effect sequels. Too bad that it was just a single game.
Like the Luke Skywalker and the gang going inside the Death Star just by accidentally coming across it. That looks like an unwinnable scenario.
Oh god! That Star is the Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah, but they do it without a Deus Ex Machina. They get in and they get out. One character sacrifices himself. They also rescue a princess.
No, like the simple appearance of the Death Star is a Deus Ex Machina. I would accept that as being part of a Red video.
You could literally say this shape of the danger zone is the silhouette of the Death Star as it approaches Endor.
Scenario where this maybe applies is the beginning of Chrono Trigger, where you fight the unbeatable boss and get janked through time again,
right?
So that you can beat the boss later, like something like that.
Yes,
maybe.
Yeah. I don't like this classification. You could use this classification, just not for Deus Ex. This is kind of silly.
Overwhelming threat, nor to failure. The Deus Ex Machina gives them a chance of success that'd otherwise be fully impossible, and until then, the audience gets to see how the characters navigate a situation they genuinely don't see a way out of. I think part of the reason I've never really minded this trope is because it's basically just the good version of how narrative antagonists work, and nobody complains about that. Bad stuff.
The good version?
I gave a mind of that.
What is the good version of the way a story should work? The Deus Ex? That doesn't make any sense.
No, because so she's distinguishing now between the Deus Ex Machina that saves the hero versus villains doing random super evil new shit for new insurmountable odds.
Well, there's lots of examples of villains having new villains or having a second form or a second wind. And it's like, what the hell? How does this... This happens all kinds of places in JRPGs.
Yeah, and that... Oh, not just that, but that generally works because we follow the story of the protagonist, and the antagonist is usually just in the background doing villain plans and plots that we're just not aware of.
And their backup plans, he has a stronger version.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to use my sword. Oh, it's not good enough. I'm going to use my bigger sword. And he transforms into a dragon. I'm going to use my dragon form. And just keeps going from there because he's just has all these backup plans. He's the villain. He's ready to go.
Yeah. For example, at the end of the Wheel of Time series, big spoilers if you ever want to read those 14 books of 800 pages each, one of the villains, the super villain, Team Rocket, let's say, one of the more competent guys of Team Rocket, has been... It's never mentioned what he's actually doing, he only exists. And he has like 2 times when he shows up for Team Rocket meetings. And when the actual final showdown happens, this guy shows up with an entire army of an entire nation and is one of the most powerful magic wielders and super swordsmen of all time. Background that is then revealed is, well, what he was doing all the time. So all the other Team Rocket members did their respective shit. Like one likes to plot and control monarchs. Another just likes to run around and gather slaves to then manipulate people. And this guy in this other nation had the equivalent to the main character's prophecies just for himself. So where he is the chosen one and takes over the entire nation, builds an army, and that is then pitched against his adversary, the good guy. And even there, it then turns out that, oh, he's also a super sword master. How was that never mentioned in the evil histories that were told through the past 3,000 years? So that character is basically a mirror of the main character, who at the end is extremely powerful. But he's had his entire plot off screen in that other nation that we've just had a few mentions of the very, very weird culture, because there's a giant desert in between, so there's no contact with that place. That can come across like a Deus Ex Machina, but he's also supposed to be a supervillain with a lot of stuff in his sleeve, and it kind of makes sense what happened, because everybody, if you read it, you wonder, well, what's going on in all these other nations or continents in this world? Because apparently the plot is about the entirety of humanity against the super evil. So what is with that other nation that is mentioned?
All right, here is Turmoil one more time. Kaguya from Naruto is a Deus Ex Machina. I think that's what I was describing before, where you have the villain. In that case, it was the 4th Hokage, or one of the original Hokages. And then he dies, and then whatever power is like the mother of the spirits. I can't remember what the hell she was. But yeah, no, she comes out of nowhere, essentially. And there might have been some foreshadowing, but you just keep fighting more and bigger and stronger enemies. And it doesn't matter if it's anime or JRPGs, it's the common thing for years and years, and it's kind of silly.
It's the next power level for the DLC content.
I don't know if it would be considered a Deus Ex, because it's a villain. It's not solving the plot. It's just keeping the plot going. There's more to go. It's like, oh, we got to fight this thing now. So happens a lot in stories.
Is allowed to hit the heroes out of nowhere with no warning all the time. Things are allowed and even expected to go catastrophically wrong with no warning. If the heroes ever describe their plan on screen, the plan is pretty much 100% guaranteed to fail at every possible turn to force the heroes into desperate improvisation. Beloved characters will be suddenly and tragically killed. Villains will inexplicably survive falls off of cliffs and into active volcanoes just so they can turn up and ruin our heroes' lives all over again. The universe of a fictional story is allowed to be an arbitrary and uncaring place only when it screws up.
Joker always survives. That's a mainstay. It's part of the character, if you will. It's his magical superpower. Because he's in itself cartoony. That's not,
as long as she focuses on this thing on the screen, I think we're good. Lazy writing.
Frankly, ludicrous degree. A Deus Ex Machina might be easily bail the heroes out of an impossible situation, but it's no lazier than a Diabolus Ex Machina that randomly
those scenes are played as a parody. The Emperor's New Groove is like purposely, they are self-aware of those things. It's not Deus Ex Machina, but they are aware of that. Okay, like she's probably just using it as like a visual, but still, like
her visual choices are so
terrible.
So often, so bad, not what she's actually talking about.
There's no reason to have this comparison. The Deus Ex Machinas. There's no. She just kept reading the article and saw, also read this trope, and she clicked on it, and then she started reading. This is just like the Deus Ex. It's like, no, it's different.
I'm starting to think that half these tropes are just completely made up.
My issues with Red's videos is that like now they are like so influential. Like they are TV tropes articles that is using like some of her stuff. And I'm like,
oh god, it's self-referential because she reads from TV tropes and then TV tropes references her as a source.
Well, there's gotta be
circle jerk, yeah.
There's gotta be better. Well, not better, but I mean like straightforward YouTubers just say Deus Ex is ba 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 ba. And
yes.
In here. There's gotta be.
There's gotta be, yeah.
The definition, here's an explanation, this is where it works, and this is the example, and that's it. That's all you gotta do. Not all this mumbo jumbo, well, here's another trope, which is like it. It's like, no, it's not. It's something completely different.
Remember when actual scholars gave definitions and explanations about things and not random half-wits on YouTube?
Yeah, well...
She's not stupid, she's just getting convoluted with all these other tropes, and you're like, don't mention those. You don't have to.
Yeah, that makes
sense. To be honest, like ever
sense.
since like her Lovecraft video, I just can't take her seriously.
Yeah, but because that makes her pseudo-intellectual.
Yeah,
she's not an actual scholar. She's just a pseudo-intellectual with an ideological seasoning.
Yeah, like the worst kind, because like she gets her information from social media. Oh man!
All right, almost 2 minutes left.
That randomly screws our heroes over for quick and easy conflict. Sometimes good things really do just happen, and sometimes that random easy twist of fate enables really cool stuff, like a T-Rex, or a giant robot fight, or our heroes surviving the dang movie. Especially after a long, complicated, and exhausting struggle to succeed, sometimes we just want to see our heroes get a goddamn break. So... yeah, and thanks again to Campfire for sponsoring this video. As you may know, Campfire is a browser-based tool suite designed to help writers and...
It just abruptly ends.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why does she always have the evil eyebrows?
Yeah.
Because she's evil. Anyhow, I must take my leave. It was nice to be here.
Okay, Mark, thanks so much.
Have a good night.
Have a great evening.
See you later. All right, let's go to stream memes if we got any. I don't know. We'll find out. Okay. Oh, what? Am I missed
a few?
Yeah, I'm trying to find... Oh, things are moved. Who moved these things around on me? Oh, anyway. All right. Jean-Luc Retard. Hey, how's it going? Deus Ex and the City Human Revolution. Oh, cool.
That is... maybe... is it funny?
Adam Jensen, King Patrol. They could use a few more ladies, I think, in the story, but no, it's cool. I like it.
My funny bone is broken.
That's great. Chew, you have his faction a single-licious satisfact to snack that up.
Help.
Oh, boy. I like that. That's great. Especially with using the Snickers font.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's George Costanza in Skyrim. Holy hell. That's pretty good.
Help.
Gentlemen, it is with great sadness to inform you that women. Yeah. It happens.
Matthew, stop moving the channels.
Kramer, what's going on in there? It's a globe-trotting conspiracy thriller, Jerry. Megabyte plus hexadecimal equals gigabyte. Yeah, so there's megabyte.
Yeah. These were interesting villains. Like they had atmosphere. They had style.
Because there's
especially with hexadecimal, like she had a fixed face, and she always had to move her. Like a mime, move her hand across her face so that she had a different mask on.
Although she did get a real mask or a real mouth once, and it didn't work out, but it was cool. Anyway, the biggest Deus Ex and reboot is the fact the user is the worst gamer in history because the protagonists, who are basically the AI, the computer program, always manage to beat them. Yeah.
Yep, that is true. It's probably a 6-year-old.
And if they lose the sector gets wiped out. Like that whole square eats everything up.
That never made sense to me, but all right.
That is the strange.
You need some stakes, I guess.
Is this a pile driver? What's going on with Vegeta and someone going Super Saiyan? I don't know.
I don't want to know.
Yeah. Brits watching Americans make memes about the Queen's death, knowing that 9/11 is just 2 days away. What?
It has nothing to do with the stream.
Yeah. What's this? It's you, McMuffin. Huh? What is this from?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Don't know. Looks something
familiar. A lot of memes.
Yeah, we're out. That's it. Fantastic. We're done. Yay. All right. Well, that was another... That was probably one of the better ones from her because she didn't go crazy. She just started talking about other things, but that's, you know.
Yeah, if we get another Red video where she talks about emotions, then we'll just want to end ourselves.
Well, she did a few things I like. She started categorizing them. The problem is she invented them. Not invented.
She always tries that.
It's like she's like, well, here's an example. I thought if I read all my books and this is what it's like, that's not exactly what that is. That's something else. So I still like the attempt because that's what you do as a first step to knowledge is you categorize your ideas. Mm-hmm. The diagram was a bit off. You know, there's the believability and then there's the boring part and then there's the crazy, they're never going to survive. And you're like, yeah, I don't think people think that way when they write or read.
I think she sees too many fuzzy borders between things instead of actual distinctive lines.
I chalk it up to being a woman. I think that's totally fine. But, I'm not being cruel. I'm just saying this is my observation. This is what women do. They just connect dots where there's no dots. Or no lines either. They just start making connections.
Are you implying they're all schizoid delusionals?
No, they just have multiple concepts and their imagination keeps going and it just goes boom, boom, boom. Let's try to smash these ideas together. And
that's what schizoids do. They make connections where they're on because the pattern recognition doesn't work right.
She actually writes it down and try to make rational sense of that, which is nice.
Yeah, it's like decaffeinated Maggie May Fish.
She's pretty caffeinated. She speaks very quickly. I don't know.
Yeah, yes. You know what I mean with decaffeinated.
Yeah, well. Anyway, that was less than 2 hours.
Free.
We're doing well. It's been a great week. I've had a lot of fun. We only had 2 Smudcasts this week, so maybe we'll have some more on the weekend. I don't know.
Been a ride.
We'll find out. It's been really great weather. It's been nice and warm. It gets warm in the evenings. It's cool in the mornings. It's kind of weird here in Toronto, but end of summer, so still enjoying the heat. You know, guys, get out of the house while you can. Whatever festivals you've got, go check them out.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we can go out this year. Anyway, have yourself a great evening. Thanks for stopping by. We'll talk to you soon.